Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since we last spoke. Um, you know, things have happened. A lot have happened. The California primaries happened, and that prompted me to get a button-up shirt and a suit jacket and talk to all of you because I was upset. Like a lot of Californians, we are upset. LA, what are we doing? I'm so utterly disappointed in our election choices. And we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. Um, I sit here and I ask myself, after everything happened, where's the disconnect? Why are we voting for Karen Bass again? Why are we voting for the same kind of people again? And how are we going to improve our state if we keep putting people in position of power that do the same thing repetitively and don't try to better our state? I think the biggest questions: are you happy with what happened in the Palisades in Altadena? Are you happy with Skid Row? Are you happy seeing homeless walk around the city like it's Gotham or something? I think like the other day, okay, I went to get a bagel with my brother for lunch, and some homeless guy started screaming at us, and we had to get up and leave. Is that what we want? Is that what we want LA to become? Because it already is this place. And I feel like I'm crazy for thinking that the answer should be no. But if you agree with me and you think that, the answer should be no, then why are we voting for the same people again? Look, I understand a lot of you are extremely frustrated, as am I. And you're probably asking yourselves, how do we get here? So let's break it down. Just so you know, which I think is crazy to even begin with, is that there were more votes cast in the mayor's race in LA County than for governor in the entire state of California. Now, just to give you an idea, that means that there were more votes cast for a mayor in one small section of the state where we have 17 city council districts for that vote in the race for governor. But for LA County, it's just one of them. And we had more votes for just the one mayoral race than we did for the governor race. How does that make sense? It made me scratch my head and think that things are a little fishy. Before I even get into the facts, too, I want to point out that our currently that our elected, the way California does their election system is unlike any other state and any other country in the world. We take 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks to decide to count all the votes and do everything else. That is crazy. The state of India, or the country of India, excuse me, is one of the largest countries in the entire world, and their voting system for president is done in one night. They know in one day of voting who their president is going to be. That's crazy that it takes us nearly a month to decide on the governor and on the mayor and on a bunch of city council districts and city council reps. It's crazy to me. I'm going to show you something that just enraged me also, because this whole, these 2 points I brought up already should prompt you to think to yourself, this seems a little fishy. Something seems a little fishy here. And so the rest of the country is sitting around and looking at what happened in California and thinking, this is a little fishy too. So, Trump, the Trump administration decided to invoke the FBI and to send the FBI to California to look into election interference and an election fraud. And here's what our governor did about it.
Where the president of the United States and others are saying, hey, we're going to do the exact same things. We're going to engage in what is essentially intimidation of voters. And so thank you to the leaders here in California for not standing for that, for being proactive to make sure that we do everything we possibly can to protect the integrity of this election, as it has been protected for decades and decades until somebody started to threaten it. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Cervantes. Thank you again for your leadership.
Yes, well, right now, California is standing with courage, standing with urgency to protect voters' rights to cast a ballot free from intimidation or interference. We've seen an incident in my own home county of Riverside where ballots were seized, and the chain of custody was broken. That is against the law. SB 73 puts in protections to ensure that ballots will be secured and that voters have confidence in our election system, that their voices will be heard at the ballot box. I am grateful that we are standing in this moment today to protect the integrity of our elections. I'm grateful to the governor, to the pro tem, to the speaker, and to my legislative colleagues for meeting this moment with urgency and meeting this moment with resolve.
I appreciate it, Senator. Thank you, all of you, for your leadership in this space. As I noted, this is not the final word on election integrity. Quite the contrary. We signaled in the May revise our ongoing negotiations and conversations around providing more resources, not just for the June ballot, but obviously for the November ballot. And those conversations continue to be extraordinarily productive. As I hinted a moment ago, and Senator Cervantes in particular, among others, have other election bills that are teeing up, that are being negotiated, amended in real time. We've been monitoring and watching those as well. This one is a first good bill to sign on the basis of two things. One, it goes in effect immediately upon my signature, number one. So in many ways, it addresses some of the anxieties around next Tuesday's election. Does it address all the issues in the past? No, and that's an inevitable question. And obviously that was part of the debate. I don't want to overstate it with this quote unquote have stopped what happened with an individual in Riverside County, not necessarily.
Okay, I'm going to cut it off here because as you know, as many of you know, Newsom is a great politician and that he can talk around just about anything to make it sound positive. This ballot measure, it's called SB 73, basically blocks federal interference in California elections. Now, a lot of you may think, okay, this is great. This is a win. This is a win for the state of California. It isn't. It isn't a win for any state because if you want to put a federal investigation into a fraudulent election in a state like California that is heavily a one-party run system, one-party run state, then it is going to prevent anybody who is a part of another political party, another part of a class, or anybody that just is curious about how the election results came to be. It's going to prevent that or prevent these people from having the ability to look into the election in more detail. Senator Cervantes, by the way, I just want to point out also, I mean, how incompetent do you have to be that you can't even read off a teleprompter? I mean, she was like sitting there stuttering off of teleprompter. Crazy. Many of you may think that's mean. It maybe is a little mean because I'm just so fed up with what's going on. And the fact that you're putting in a measure in place to literally block anybody from saying, maybe something was wrong with this election. Let's look into it. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. Nobody's gonna look into this. And this has happened since 2018, since, Newsom, really started in 2018, starting to put measures in place to safeguard California from the Trump administration. So basically what he's doing is he's shielding California from any kind of federal interference or having to adhere to any kind of federal law. It's crazy. It's something that has kind of led California to become the way it is. Jerry Brown before him did a very similar thing. It's crazy to me. And also they talked about the first guy who sat there and spoke about how this is something that has been in place in California for decades. The way that our ballot measures are counted and how the ballot things and measures have worked. That's not true at all. Actually, in 2018, Newsom also passed another law that granted California, it allowed them to do something called ballot harvesting. I'm going to get into what ballot harvesting is in a little bit. But this was just a crazy video to watch because you literally saw three people kind of fighting to keep any kind of investigation into something that could be fraudulent from ever occurring. So ballot harvesting, I just brought that up. So what is ballot harvesting? Many of you may hear me say that a couple times, and I'm going to explain it for you. So the legal definition is collecting completed absentee ballots from voters and delivering them to polling places or election offices. These efforts often focus on helping elderly or unhoused voters or people who live in remote areas ensure ballots get in on time. That is the legal definition. Now, there are only 4 states in the United States that allow ballot harvesting. California is one of those states, and it was a law that was recently put in place as of 2018. So essentially what California is doing here is, let's say you are a dementia patient in an old age home, or you're a drug addicted, unhoused person, or you're an immigrant, illegal or legal, who lives in California but doesn't necessarily speak English or doesn't have a proper education to know what's going on with, the voting in LA government. Nonprofit groups and special interest groups pay individuals. This is crazy, okay? They sometimes pay individuals salaries of upwards of $60,000 a year plus to get these communities and these ballots collected from these people. By collect, I mean that they influence them to vote in a specific way, either by offering them cash, which there is a video online. If you go look at the California Globe, they did a fantastic job covering the mayoral race where they interview homeless people on the street and they said, who'd you vote for in the election? And they said, well, this nonprofit for the homeless, they offered me $1 to vote for Karen Bass. And so I let them fill out my ballot and I signed it, and then they paid me $1. And for homeless people, $1 goes a long way. So this is just crazy. Sometimes these individuals even fill out the ballots themselves. And then instead of giving, so I'm going to set up how this happens. Okay. California, a lot of these homeless centers, homeless nonprofits, there are a ton. After COVID, the homeless nonprofits in California nearly tripled in size. And so I think a lot of us are wondering, how do all these nonprofits, since they're nonprofits, stay running, especially if there's like 20, 25 nonprofits that do the same thing? So what's happening is that there's a direct funnel of money to these nonprofits. These nonprofits are paid to literally go and recruit homeless people from other states and other countries and other parts of the world to California. They let them come into California, and then they have these homeless people register their addresses. They make their legal mailing address these nonprofits. So the nonprofits then receive ballots when it comes to election season, and they fill out all the ballots in the way that they want to fill them out, whatever. And for a long time, they would still have to get the signature of these specific homeless people in order to then mail in these ballots. Now, which was a measure that was passed in 2020 by Newsom and his administration, and he was able to do this because in 2020, COVID was on the rise. And so people were mailing in ballots. They weren't even going to the ballot box. So he was able to put in a measure that allowed people to, instead of signing a signature, all that they need to qualify for a signature on a ballot is a line. So if you just draw a straight line, that counts as your signature in the state of California. So when these nonprofits go and they fill out these ballots, all they have to do is either go to a homeless person and say, can you just write a line on the page? Or they sometimes can literally just go and fill out a line on the page, and then they go and turn them in, and these ballots are counted. It's the craziest thing. And I don't know how, and I kind of just explained to you how it became the law in this state. And then Newsom is doing everything he can to block any kind of federal investigation into this matter so that this can get changed, because this will never get changed if we keep electing the same people. And honestly, I think people were so appalled with what happened in the mayoral race because Spencer Pratt was ahead by so much. And then all of a sudden in 2 days, Nithya Raman and Karen Bass got nearly 36% of the vote in like a 2-day time span. And people are asking themselves, how did this happen? How did it happen so quickly? I just outlined exactly how it happened, because a lot of these homeless nonprofits, they were able to just send in ballots. Same thing with elderly home, right? If you go to a old age home and you say to somebody, you should vote for this person, and they just, fill it out, whatever they do. And then they the employees either write a line on it or they have the old age home people do it. It's something called ballot harvesting, and ballot harvesting is one of the most disgusting things that they still allow in our country. And it is only in 4 states, because they've gotten rid of it in so many states because it is an unconstitutional thing, in my opinion. But that's kind of what happened here. So again, I want to give credit where credit's due to the California Globe for covering this, because I looked at the California Globe. I looked at John Cobelt, and his show does a phenomenal job of covering this election. They did a great job of covering just how the election system works, how we got the results we did. So Jennifer Callahan, Kristen Megg, John Cobelt, and the California Globe, phenomenal job covering this. Go read their articles, go read their stuff. They did a great job. And I think it's important to note for the midterm elections that are going to happen in November in California for a lot of these runoffs that happened. So you're going to have Rahman and Bass. And the crazy thing is that I would endorse Bass and I would urge you to vote for Bass over Rahman. But anyway, this is kind of how we got to where we are. So again, this is all legal. Everything I outlined to you is completely legal in the state of California. So I'm going to walk you through again how this kind of happens, and I'm going to give you kind of a hypothetical, right? So step one is pay homeless people to vote. And a lot of these nonprofits are going out and offering $1 for people to vote. Then step two is when the state send out the ballots, these homeless people's addresses are to these nonprofit offices. So all the blank ballots go to the nonprofit offices, where they then fill out the ballots for the candidates that they want to boost election results. Now we're talking, this could be hundreds of thousands of ballots. It could be thousands of ballots. I don't know. It depends on the area. In LA County, it was thousands of ballots. And these employees are paid a huge salary, more than, obviously way higher than minimum wage, to do so. And then step three is get the homeless person to sign. Now, again, like I said, how do they have to sign? Either a line or an X. That is all that is required for signature on a ballot in the state of California. And again, this is all legal as of 2018 and 2020. Another law in California states that the requirements to vote, okay, this is from Ballotopedia, by the way, which is a down the middle, more so. Ballotopedia is more like down the middle, left-leaning organization. So you know that I'm not making this up, right? So California does not require voters to present photo identification when they vote. However, some voters may be asked to show a form of identification when voting, and this does not have to be a photo ID or social security number. It can literally be a pay stub, an employment ID, or a rent check. Or even sometimes, in some cases, it can be a purchase receipt. So if you went to like Target and bought something, you could show that in that state and you can vote in California. That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because you're getting thousands of people that may not even, be a full resident here, illegal immigrants, people that are not, registered to vote. It's absolutely crazy. And again, go to Ballotopedia. It will show you that this is legal in the state of California. If you think I'm making it up, I'm not. I wish I was, but I'm not. And then step four. So once they've all already filled out these ballots and done everything, they collect the ballots. And like I just showed you, there is no verification sometimes for these ballot collections. Okay, many of yourselves are also probably asking the next question: why does it take so long to vote in California? That's a prime example of why. So, once these ballots are collected and filled out, they can wait to submit these until like a day into voting. That's why you saw a huge late surge for Nithya Raman. So literally, a woman who had Nithya Raman, by the way, had no statistical possibility of winning. She was in third place, 14 points behind Karen Bass in the election polling. And then all of a sudden, within hours, surged 40% day after day after day and overwhelmed both Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass. Nithya Raman, by the way, in the San Fernando Valley, which is the district that she is in charge of in city council, she came in third in the voting. So that just shows you that people in her district where her work is directly applicable, people hate her here. So then the question is, how did a candidate where her own people that she oversees don't like her, how does she become first and a near second in the mayoral race? It just doesn't make sense. And the reason that it probably happened is exactly what I just explained to you, because the law in California literally allows thousands of votes and ballots to be fixed for a particular candidate. And again, it's the law. So they're not breaking the law. They're just rigging the system. It's crazy. Okay. And then I want to say one other thing. It gets worse. Okay. These homeless people, like I told you, that are registered to vote at a lot of these nonprofit centers, sometimes they disappear after the election. So like I said, they have some of these nonprofit employees are literally paid to go out and recruit homeless people from other states and other countries to come here. And then they get them to come here. They get them to register, at their center, their nonprofit center. And then sometimes these people are disappeared. These homeless people are never to be found again. I think the California Globe said that there were 480 people in the state of California that registered at a homeless nonprofit, and none of them are still within the state. So literally after election day, they left. And it's because these nonprofits, they take them in, they house them, they get them to register, and then they send them out. It's crazy. And these nonprofits can keep residents for 48 years. 48 years. So let's say these people come in and they leave and never be found again. They will still get their ballots for 48 years. Crazy. And again, this is all legal. And this is what happens, though, when we continue to vote for the same people. When you continue to have a one-party ran state year after year after year in every single district almost, you run into problems like this. And again, this is what happens. For 17 years, California has been a one-party state, and it has continued to be that way, and it's not working. Look, I am very down the middle. I'm probably more left-leaning than you would think I am. Down the middle, left-leaning. But this is crazy. This has gotten out of hand. Even I think if you are extreme left or extreme right, you can acknowledge that what's going on in California is not right and it is not okay. And it will continue this way until we wake up and call out this absolute trash garbage of a system that we have been blissfully ignorant for the past 20 years. It's time to wake up. And this, again, should never be allowed anywhere. This is what I would urge you to do is read, do your research, get passionate about voting laws in California, and look at news that is not mainstream. So many people rely upon NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox News. These are all partisan news organizations. Do your research. Listen to podcasts. Listen to podcasts from both sides. That's what I do, because you understand what one side thinks and how another side thinks, and it allows you to understand where the middle ground can be reached and why one side thinks what they do and why another side thinks what they do. And it allows you to formulate your own opinion. We have a very, very uphill battle in front of us, Los Angeles, and help me to help us get there by educating yourself, by reading, doing research. Again, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is an everyone issue. This is a fight for justice. It's a fight for fairness. It's a fight for election fraud interference, to prevent election fraud interference, and doing the right thing no matter what the other side may say or may try to spin this in a certain way. Because politicians are good liars. That's how they got to where they are. Every single politician is a good liar. And if you believe that they don't lie to you, then you are blissfully ignorant. So look, the next time that we talk, I'll have some ideas for you on how we can build a better state and a better world. But if we allow this to happen in states like we are seeing right now in California, and I'm a California resident, then what's to say that this can't happen in another state? What's to say that Texas or Florida can't have the Republicans rig the system in a certain way? Rigging the system to try to fight and combat the other side doesn't work. It's two extremes, two opposites. Two opposites do not, it doesn't solve the problem. There has to be middle ground that's reachable. And I think that's why people miss the 2014 days, the 2012 days, the 2008s, because you may have not have liked Obama's policies. God knows I didn't like a lot of them, but what he was he was a president. He was presidential. He was an American. He knew how to bridge the gap, and Republicans knew how to bridge the gap and come together with the Democrats at that time. And things have gotten so crazy off the wazoo that we are literally rigging systems in states to push certain candidates and to keep certain, people or a certain party in power. And that's just not right, no matter which side you are on. So look, do me a favor, read, research. I've said it before. I just, I'm saying it now. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I really appreciate everybody listening to my little spiel there. Hopefully I educated you a little bit on why California it keeps and continues to vote the way it is, because it's almost like a system that is rigged. And if we do nothing else, we need to stand up for election fairness, because election fairness is how we get this started. I would also urge anybody in that lives in Los Angeles to look up reformcalifornia.org. They have great ideas. I know that they are mainly a right-backed organization, but even if you are a centrist or left-leaning and you want something and you want to ensure that our election laws are fair and that California is taking a step in the right direction, I would urge you to, engage with them. Go look at their website. I would urge you to talk about the state of things at the dinner table. It's important. I know none of us want to right now, and politics is such a touchy subject. But if we don't talk about it and we just ignore the things that are happening, then we're going to keep ending up in the same exact situation that we're in now. All right, everybody, have a good rest of the week, and do your research.